I will call to order the meeting of the Cohasset Advisory Committee on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. It is now 7:11 p.m. So I would like a roll call, please. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron here.
Rob Hillman,
Here.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy here.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi here. Sorry.
that's okay. Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler here.
and Jean Estino here. Okay, so pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20B, following Governor Baker's declaration of state of emergency in the Commonwealth from the COVID pandemic, the advisory committee meets virtually utilizing remote technology, and all votes are taken by roll call vote. Okay, so I don't really have any comments by the chair other than I did speak with Jean Healy Dipple tonight, and she said that there's going to be a survey sent out about future uses for the town hall. Michelle is working on contacting One Pleasant to see what a first floor purchase price might be for that as a condo. And then we closed the RFP. They closed the RFP last night to lease the first floor space. So other than that, I think we're good and we can move on. So current subjects for discussion. We are going to review various department budgets, and we have public safety, police and fire, and public works and DPW. We do not have water and sewer tonight, but we'll do that maybe next week. So who would like to lead off?
Brian's voting yes if you let him. So
okay.
No,
All right.
I was just kidding. Rock paper scissors with.
rock paper scissors. Okay.
Yeah. No, they're ahead of me. So on the agenda, let's.
Okay. Who logged on first?
I
So
can jump in.
Quigley.
All right. I made you a co-host, Bill, so you're good.
Okay. Hi everyone. We met with Mark Cameron and Mike Barclay last week or 2 weeks ago. I've lost track of time. And we've been working on this this budget and sharpening our pencils and working with Chris's office along with Michelle. So I'm here to present the proposed budget for fiscal year 25, which we've settled at $3,525,915. That represents a 5.8% increase over last year. And included in that increase, what we received from that increase is we're covering all the contractual COLA increases, and we're also adding an FTE to the department, which will help reduce overtime a little bit and also help with officer fatigue. To get a little bit into the numbers and get a little wonky here, I've pulled all the call numbers for the last 10 years, but just a snapshot between 2019, the calls between 2019, when I say calls for service, that includes everything. Calls for service in 2019 was about 7,500 calls. This last year that just closed out in 2023, we're north of 15,000 calls, and which represents an 118.5% increase in what we do. As a lot of you know, you've been around for a while, the manning at the police department has been flat for about 30. I keep on using 32 years, but we're up to about 37 now, since really 1990 or the late 80s, and we're dealing with things I never envisioned we'd have to deal with, including mental health issues and in just the back end of the business, quite frankly. We have a post commission, the Police Officer Standards and Training Commission, that came into being a couple of years ago. So that's requires a lot of bandwidth from the administration of the department. And we spend a lot of time interacting with the state and making sure we're in compliance and making sure officers are certified. For those of you who don't know, police officers are now licensed in the state, similar to, it's a professional license. They've moved towards that model. So there's statutory continuing ed classes and credits, and there's different benchmarks that we have to meet throughout the year. So to be in compliance with all that, again, just a 20,000 foot look at things. It's going to require 5.8% increase this year. We can really take a deep dive, or I'd rather stop and let you guys ask some questions, or maybe have Mark Cameron jump in, since he got the full presentation a couple weeks ago.
So Bill, one of the alarming facts that you shared with us was on the call volume, and a lot of that has to do with the facility on 3A, the rehab wellness facility there on 3A, which is again a for-profit entity, and it just I didn't know if just seemed like an alarming thing with a for-profit entity and consuming so much of the department's resources. Is there any avenues to work with them to come up with a better solution? Again, you expressed the time that consumed with those calls, and
yeah, we have an inpatient drug and alcohol recovery center, treatment center on 3A that moved in a few years ago, and it takes up a ton of our bandwidth. And Chief Dockery is nodding his head as well. We're there, a couple times a day, usually, sometimes more. And these are complicated cases. And I'm not trying to single out an individual business. Just these types of calls in general require hours of time. People have to be brought to the hospital. Paperwork has to be filled out. A lot of times we're bringing people to the hospital against their will. We call it a Section 12 or a Section 35, and they're at this treatment facility, or they're at a treatment facility in general, willingly, voluntarily. If they act up or use drugs or come in intoxicated, we have to take steps to get them out of there and get them to a hospital. And a lot of times that's involuntarily through this Section 12 or Section 35. And I'm sure Chief Dockery has the numbers for how many transports we've had out of there. And again, this is every day, several times a day, some days. And it is problematic, but they are taxpayers. I don't know where else to go with this. There's no, these are emergency calls, and we are the first responders in Cohasset. It's just sort of the cards we've been dealt.
other than that, Chief, it seemed your biggest challenge is the overtime.
Well, that's
Mandatory overtime, the scheduled overtime, just to complete the balance of the required shifts.
yeah. So this has been going on for years and years. This is just the way it's policy. And I've had this discussion in open select board meetings over the past decade, and we have more shifts to fill than we have officers to fill them. I call that, it creates structural overtime. So we know every week there's a certain amount of overtime that has to be filled. So we're paying people time and a half, to fill regular known shifts. Again, this is a policy decision that was made, more than a decade ago, and we've had blue ribbon committees, and we've looked at this, and it comes down to math. We have 3 shifts per day times 7 days a week, times there's nine total shifts per day between midnight and 11:59 p.m. times 7 days. So there's 63 shifts that have to be filled every week. And we're trying to fill 63 shifts with about 11 people. When you take, vacation and training and sick time and everything else into account. So this is it's math. And thankfully, we are starting to address this last year through some creative scheduling and moving people around. We added the natural resource officer to Manning, so he counts in the Manning and shift strength, so we can use him towards Manning instead of hiring overtime. And this year, we're proposing that we add an FTE to reduce some of the overtime as well. Again, our Manning has been flat for 30 some odd years, and we're just to the point now where we have to address this. It's not an easy decision, but we're north of $500,000 in overtime each year, and that's known overtime.
And then I guess the last comment I would have is the capital request for this year seemed pretty routine and required. Couple of vehicle replacements that were lost, the upgrade, the continued lease of the tasers, and I think I'm forgetting another. Oh, the UTV.
Correct. Yes. Gene, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I think Diane has a question.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
No, I couldn't see it. Thank you, Diane. You could ask a question.
Thank you. I'll just bucket a couple of them pretty quickly. The full-time proposed hire bill, is that a police officer?
Yes, correct.
And I mean, do you anticipate any challenges in actually making that hire?
We have 4 openings right now, and as you know, we've left civil service, so things are a little bit easier. But that said, it has been a challenge, recruiting people. Other towns are leaving civil service as well, so we're now in competition with Rockland, Norwell, and some of the towns, Metro West. So, in the candidates we are finding, the candidates are applying today, they're discerning consumers. They're shopping around. It's not like it used to be. It just isn't. So we have to be able to, offer a decent salary and package and working conditions. And we're taking all the right steps. We're getting there with the new facility, good equipment, good training, and decent pay. But we have to work at it.
And then just 2 quick other things. One's more of a comment. Hold on, my cat is on my notes.
I feel your pain.
I imagine is there extra training required now with all the mental health challenges that, the first responders are finding? And then I see you shaking your head. And then my follow-up is just a statement that maybe we can discuss another time, but it sounds like there's almost a structural problem here, in terms of being able to man or a woman a public safety, and with the challenges, especially when there's when that facility came into Cohasset, the mental health treatment facility. There was really, it just went through planning. There was no, and for it to, in a lot of ways, at least it's paying taxes, but for it to have such a profound impact on the workload of your officers, and I worry about burnout and all that stuff. So I think it's a structural thing that hopefully is being addressed by other communities that we can kind of jump in and learn more about.
Yeah, we undergo now through mandate 40 additional hours per officer. It's called CIT training, crisis intervention team training. So it's 40 hours on top of everything else. So everybody has to have that. It includes de-escalation and all the things that come with that. Additionally, the structure of the department, we run with 3 officers on duty. There's always 3 uniforms on the street. And a lot of times with these calls at these centers having to do with mental health, it's always 2 officers, sometimes 3. So we're tying up the whole shift, sometimes for hours. Not to mention if there's bleed over from some of the social issues we're encountering with youth, and if we have to notify DCF as an example, Department of Children and Families were mandated in notifying them, of certain calls. And we have to do that right away with the phone call. We have to make notification to an 800 number. This is a fun fact that not many people know, but we can't get through anymore to DCF. There's such demand on that system because of some of the shelters that have opened in the area and in the state, that it's not uncommon to sit on hold for 2 hours, 2.5 hours just to get the call screened. And strangely, like a lot of times now, we're finding, I'd never seen this in the 30 some odd years I've been doing this. DCF is actually responding out. They're sending teams out on the road, which almost never happens. But now for cases that I would say, I wouldn't expect them to send someone out. They're actually dispatching a team of social workers. So it's a strange new world.
Any other questions for the chief? I guess not.
Okay.
Okay, I did have one.
I'm sorry, Jan. I think adding the office is really critical. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. Bill's department has very assiduously applied for grants. Unfortunately, we have not won them. We can't wait anymore. So we hope that we actually can hire a person. As Bill points out, we're still backfilling with a goal of cutting overtime and also just taking some of the burden, right? Because when you're understaffed, you just stretch people a little bit too far. We have a young department. That said, we'd like them to stay. As Bill said, everyone's very discerning consumer these days. And while we offer a very cool little place to work, we also want it to be a fun place to work and not a place where you get held on a regular basis. So that extra person, we hope to be able to hire this next year, but it is budget.
My question that I was going to ask was actually about possibility of grants, kind of like what we had when we first hired the school resource officer. I was wondering if there were any mental health grants targeting a police officer that might be able to help with those things, but it doesn't sound like that's possible.
No, we've applied for the last 3 years, and the grants are really going to larger places. Brockton comes to mind, Fall River,
Yeah.
Haverhill, Lawrence. There's been a couple small towns there, but what they want with the mental health grants specifically is you to dedicate that officer that's hired with the grant just to those duties.
Right.
So they really, sort of corner you. It doesn't work for us. That said, we still apply for it just so they don't forget our name.
Right. And most communities don't have facilities like we have on 3A, most towns. So that's kind of a interesting little concept for us to have to deal with in such a small town.
Yeah, it's literally they're bringing people in. They're bringing patients in from all over the country.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Every day, and it's on. It changes the population inside of that facility changes almost. It changes daily.
Yeah.
2 or 3 get out and they bring others in, and quite frankly, a lot of these people show up with all kinds of substances on board, and they get screened at the front door. There, they might show up at 11 o'clock at night and be a 0.35 or a 0.38, intoxicated. They won't let them in the facility. They call us, and someone, this person just blew in from Walla Walla, Washington. Now they're ours. We own them. There's a lot of nights where the people, we have to bring them back to the lobby of the police station and try to arrange for an Uber for them because they don't want them at the facility disrupting their operation.
I don't know much about that facility. Is that like a franchise, or do they have other locations?
There's definitely other locations. I know some. There's at least one in Florida, and maybe Chief Dockery can jump. He knows a lot about that operation there.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do have one other facility I know of in Florida, and it's a much larger facility. And the facility is also in a community that there's an actual hospital in the community, and the fire department there also has 4 ambulances that serve the community. So their transport times are maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, compared to us, we're a 20-minute transport time. In the hospital that we're transporting to is a zoo right now because it's the only hospital in the region. So
Yeah.
it's very taxing on us being so far away from a hospital, and the only hospital that we transport to is already overburdened.
Oh, I remember when somebody asked me if I was aware that facility was there, open and operating, and I had no idea. I had not heard about it when they first opened. So I'm surprised that they would pick a town like this because there are no services here to help, with mental health issues. So,
It is
I
a
mean,
quality, they run a quality program. It's a quality operation, but you know,
yeah, but when they're bringing people in from all over the place, that's
yeah, this was, you know, the unintended consequence of,
it. Yeah, it really taxes our resources.
yeah, I mean,
And
the ambulance is gone for hours at a time, multiple
yeah,
times a day.
okay. I think I saw Fran Collins showed up. Thank you very much, sir. Did you have your hand up with a question, Fran?
I did. I'm just curious, what is the total police officer population of the department, the non-administrative people, chief?
19,
19 totals, including you.
20 including me. I consider myself admin.
Okay, all right. All right, good. Thank you. That's my question. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, then maybe we could move on to Chief Darkray.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Thanks for
Hello.
having me. So we're a department of 24 individuals. We have 4 groups of 6 individuals, and currently trying to maintain that has been a little bit difficulty because we're having a hard time hiring paramedics. There's a very limited number of paramedics in the state, so right now we have 3 openings, and we were close to hiring 1 from another community back in January. In the very last minute, he decided to go to another department. So we have 3 openings this time. But so looking at our budget request for 25, we're looking for $3 million to operate the budget, operate the department. And it's level funded. It's basically pretty level funded. That would give us the 24 staff positions of that. Each group has 1 captain, 1 lieutenant, and 4 firefighters. Manning fluctuates between 4 to 6 on duty. Right now, we're mostly running at 4. So usually when the ambulance transports, we're calling 2 back because of the situation, how far the hospital is, and how overtaxed the hospital is. That we really, can't get in right away, drop off a patient, and get out. That's one of our biggest issues, is trying to get the turnaround. Well, meanwhile, every other ambulance on the South Shore is going there too. So we're fighting for a bed to get our patient into with like every other ambulance in the South Shore. So that's what's taxing us the most, is trying to fill vacancies and trying to get our ambulance turned around at the hospital. So we do about 100 runs out of one Chief Justice Cushing Highway, which is Evoke. And of that, we probably do about 90 transports, and we'll have to rely on mutual aid sometimes when our primary ambulance is already tied up or on another call. So yeah, they do bring in individuals from all across the United States, and the chase is on for collecting their insurance when we transport. That's the big issue, trying to collect for transports. So any questions for our request?
I don't have any. Anyone else?
Diane does. Actually, it's just a question of, do we get a budget memo that I haven't seen, Chris, or was it not ready?
Yeah, so I was, so I need some updates from John on that one pager.
Okay.
I had I got locked out of a drive. So everybody submitted their goals and objectives, but I got locked out of a drive, which only got fixed on for me today. So we will get that to you, Diane.
Okay.
So-
Chris, I can send that along to you. You can push out.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I
got that.
juggle so many drives, I figured I missed it, so.
No,
thank you. Okay.
It's been a little bit. I've been operating as by the way, our town accountant's awesome. You've met her. I'm still trying to pick up the other elements of this, including getting these forms together. So I'm not a very good admin assistant to myself. So I will say, by the way, that that John and Jack have been working very cooperatively with the union to keep because they're tight. They've worked out a very good arrangement. So we're able to drop at night and keep at a higher level of the day. That's when most of the calls are. Right? Most of the calls are between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. or something like that. I think 8 and 6.
Correct.
Except for these like random, night calls that you vote. And people also do have accidents at night sometimes too. So it's worked out. So we're kind of at a detente, I would say, because people aren't having to be held because it's being planned in advance. It's kind of a very elaborate dance going on. We do have, I think, John, right, 2 people in the pipeline that are about to be certified as paramedics, which will help a lot.
That's correct. We had one individual just tested. He passed everything. He's waiting for his certifications to come from the National Registry. And then we have another individual who's waiting for a test date. And once we get those 2 gentlemen spun up, that will help manning levels, which will be very beneficial to the department. And then hopefully the new civil service list is coming out next week. Our request is in for it, but there's like 20 other departments requesting for the same list. So back in the day when I started 31 years ago, there was like thousands of names for one job. And now there's thousands of jobs and there's maybe 10 names. So it's flipped and it's real hard to recruit people and maintain them. Because we've lucky it hasn't happened to us, but other chiefs from other departments are losing members to other departments because of their pay structure and some of the other benefits that they have. So, but we're lucky that people do like benefits that we offer. But I know one of the reasons people leave is pay and benefits. So.
Can you, Chief Quigley said that there are 4 openings in the police department now. Do you have actual openings or are you just looking to add folks because we're so short?
No, we have actual openings. We had an unexpected retirement and then
Okay.
we had 2 retirements and then we had another one unexpected. And so that's what we're trying to do is fill retirements.
So is it 3 positions that are open or?
Yes, 3 vacant positions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, just thank you to the chiefs and Sergeant Reardon for their time a couple weeks ago.
Thank you, Mike.
The only exclamation point I'll put on this is that the town did close this week on 135 King Street, so we are now the owner of that property.
Excellent.
There's a long process to go. That said, it's now in the town's possession, so the work begins. Michelle announced last night that we're going to be preparing the RFP for the project manager, owner's project manager services, so that'll be out in the next couple of weeks. And we have kind of a small working group that hasn't met a lot yet of both chiefs, Brian Joyce, myself, and Michelle, just to kind of drive the conversation forward. And Michelle's in the process of recruiting someone, citizen, to join us on the OPM screening committee. So, which I think she's about to wrap that up. So that's a progress. So that's just one more caveat on this bonus.
Okay. All right, any other questions for either chief? If not, thank you so much, gentlemen, for making yourselves available tonight to have this chat. We appreciate your time.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Brian Joyce has been waiting in the wing.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. So yeah, and just on that last note, so Nick Barati has been up there daily since they closed with keys and taking, getting all the bills turned over. and working on the systems.
Are you covering, are you doing Nick's role job? Are you presenting? for
Yeah,
that?
so we're gonna do DPW and facilities tonight. I have just a very brief slideshow.
You're a co-host, so you can go right ahead and share.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
So DPW facilities FY25, and this is just, we kind of go through this every year, but this is the kind of the nomenclature, the coding of our budgets. 422 is the main DPW highway, tree and park budget. 423 is snow and ice. That's by statute, we can keep that the same pretty much every year. 424 is our street lights. 425 is the and again, this is the prefix to the entire budget lines you can read. 425 is the RTF. 426 is the facilities. And on the 426 ones, the last two digits on any of those lines signify the building that is on that line. So we're proposing level service budget for both DPW facilities with increases basically due to contracts, market increases, and service costs. This is a snapshot of the DPW budgets, DPW snow and ice transfer station, street lighting. So the DPW budget line, we are proposing a 5% increase. Again, that's mainly due to increases in contract costs and services. And the change is 77,433, which is 5% of the 1.548 previous year. The snow and ice budget, again, that's statutorily, we have no change in that. The last couple of years, we've been very fortunate. This is the first year I think I can remember, at least in my history here, and Carl said it's only happened maybe to once before where we haven't spent the budget. We did go out plowing and sanding 15 times, but again, didn't make a dent. Had we not built that salt shed, we would have gone out like 100 times. The transfer station, that's where the other increase is. And again, this is kind of mainly due to market trends and costs and hauling and disposal of the materials that we process through the facility. And that's a 9% increase overall. Street lighting, again, there's no change there. That basically covers our electric bills for the street lights, the 500 street lights we own in town, and the main contract with our service contractor, Dago Electric. I'll just go high level things we did last year. Kept up with our stormwater permits, cleaning catch basins, rebuilding several of them. We did 11 watertight manholes when we paved Margin Street and around the harbor. You know, that area is prone to flooding on astronomical high tides and storm surges. May even get a little bit in the next 24 hours. So when that happens, there was, inundation in the sewers and to the sewer treatment plant. So we replaced that when we did the paving. Part of that paving, the linear footage, we did 7,190 feet of roadway and about 2,500 of sidewalks. So that's a little under a mile and a half of roadway and a half a mile of sidewalk. So that was Margin Street, a little piece of Atlantic, Elm Street, Smith Place. And we also did Church and Doan sections of each of those on the way out of town on the west side of town. We rebuilt a lot of fencing. There's traffic sign replacement. These are kind of perennial things we take care of. There were 55 street opening permits, which includes markouts and utility identifying utility conflicts. At the transfer station, we transferred a little over 1,200 tons of solid waste, 503 tons of C&D, which is a construction demolition. Recycled 217 tons of mixed paper products, 163 tons of cardboard. 54 tons of plastics, 105 tons of glass, 31 tons of textiles, and 350 gallons of waste oil. And just another note, we installed a new cardboard compactor with staff in-house. A lot of tree work around town. We'll probably have more in the next 24, 48 hours, but removes 56 dead trees. Part of the requests on these increases include an increase in the tree budget to take care of more of them. We have a new bucket truck that now staff are trained on. New staff are being trained on, and we continue to, now we're able to do some more elevated trimming where we weren't able to do that in previous years. We had 30 interments at the cemeteries and 9 hazardous waste days and 9 brush days. Again, we plowed 15 times, which is a very light winter, as you can imagine. The capital request for DPW, we have a truck replacement. We're replacing a F550 diesel. That's been really problematic with the DEF systems. We're replacing with an F600 gasoline chip body. That's the main vehicle you'll see around town when we're doing cleanup. Thursday, Friday this week, it tows the chipper, and it has the box truck behind it. The RTF scale, you see the picture in the middle there. That's used for weighing vehicles coming in to dispose of C&D so that we can charge them appropriately. And we also use it to, sorry, was there a question? So we also use the scale to weigh our outgoing hauling containers to make sure that, the receiving facilities are also kind of matches up. We're getting charged the right tipping fees. And finally, we have a truck maintenance lift in the garage that is over 25 years old, and it's had some failures in it. It's still working, but we'd like to get that replaced for safety reasons. It's used pretty much daily on in-house staff do the brakes, the oil changes, and really anything else that might be underneath the vehicles. And not part of the operating budget, but I just have on the capital request, we will be going to town meeting for the new, to use the new stabilization fund to pave the roads. And the proposal this year is $1.4 million of paving. Last year, just to put it in, we paved about 1.2 with the streets I had mentioned there. This current year, we're planning to pave South Main Street from St. Anthony's to Situate Line, Beechwood Street, where the water main was done last year, Pond Street from 3A to a little past the high school by Holly Lane, and Mill Lane. There's also some safety work that's being proposed by the sidewalk, the new sidewalk committee. In addition to the roads, we're going to be painting sharrows, which are these bicycle pictures with double arrows. So it's basically a shared arrow, a sharrow, so that notify vehicles to share the road with bicycles. The main focus this year is going to be Elm Street, inbound and outbound. You get all the kids going to the sailing clubs and back each day. There's also a proposal for an engineering, some engineering for a sidewalk on Pond Street to connect from 3A to King Street. And that's a heavily traveled pedestrian route for the kids going to school, to high school, middle school. And there's a sidewalk on the other side of Pond Street, but this would then connect to the neighborhood, King Street, and then I guess ultimately Beechwood area. Do you want to go through the slides first and then take questions at the end?
Sure, that's great.
Okay. So goals for coming year, again, more employee training. We have new staff that it's really hard to get CDL drivers now. So we have our last 2 hires. We've had we've had to hire those without CDLs, and we're sending them to the driving school to get CDLs with a contract that they stay with us for at least 3 years after they achieve their CDL. So it's kind of a carrot we've had to put into the union contract and also into our hiring practices to get the staff. Currently, we're shorthanded at the RTF. It seems to be, it's been a vacancy that's come and gone my whole time here for the past 10 years. We're planning to finish and support the CZM Coastal Resiliency Grant studies. There's 2 underway right now that they're looking at the storm water pathways in and around the harbor and into kind of the Jacobs Meadow area where the sewer treatment plant is. The other one is also, the second grant is to elevate critical items in and around the wastewater treatment plant to keep it in operation in the event of a major hurricane and such. Again, continued stormwater upgrades and monitoring for our NIPTES permit. We're rehabbing the Border Street fence between Atlantica and the Lobster Pound. If any of you have walked that area, you could probably push it over if you really tried. There's a lot of rot on the bottom of those. So we have the VOTEC, we put in a request for the South Shore VOTEC school. They've accepted the request. So we buy the materials and they'll be constructing that fence new using the same stainless steel hardware that's out there. That's good shape. It's just the wood that's a wreck. So they'll be doing that over the next couple of months starting in May, and then I think they're taking a break for another project and then finishing up at the end of the summer. And again, they won't leave any sections of fence open, but that's something that goal for this year. Again, we talked about the paving, and then just in general, just we're trying to optimize performance in all of our divisions. Capital budget is again, it's a dynamic list. So these are what's been on our 10-year list for a while. Again, we don't anticipate any changes, but we've been fortunate. The capital budget we have the new salt shed. We have a few new critical frontline vehicles. So I think we're in pretty decent shape right now as far as equipment, and we're taking care of the lower cost things like the man left the scale, compressors, rollers, things like that. So that's DPW facilities. Nick, are you on the line? So if Nick's not on, at any rate, facilities is proposing a 2.6 increase, which again is very low compared to a lot of the
Brian, sorry to interrupt. Nick's in the audience. If he could be promoted, I think.
Is that my job? I don't know.
I can't do it, but
No,
Okay.
I just did it. He's all set. He's on his way in.
Okay, thanks. So again, it's a level service budget, minor increase. Nick and his staff have done a lot of work, and they have a lot of work ahead of them with the new facility at King Street. Some prior year accomplishments, they did all schools at all the schools lighting upgrades through Grant Paul Pratt. There's a rubber membrane roof on top of the flat portion of Paul Pratt Library where they applied a liquid membrane. It's basically a liquid pour that dries to a solid rubber surface over the existing rubber surface. So it's a brand new. The Deer Hill School, they did a library renovation, painting, construction of the shelving stacks and such. Paul Pratt Library painting and upgrades for the areas for better flow. The police station, they did all new lockers at the police station, and these aren't just like high school lockers. They're like lockers on steroids. They have ventilation for the flak jackets and outlets for plugging in the tasers and such. The they did a significant amount of generator upgrades, including the public safety now has a brand new external generator. Previously, it was in the basement. It was an older generator that was probably 45 years old. Now there's an external generator and it powers the entire facility, where before it was only portions of the facility. Goals for the upcoming year continued with the Green Communities Grant upgrades, which include HVAC, building control systems, capital projects for the multiple. Every year, Nick has several capital budget requests for various rooftops and other building systems, painting projects, and just general support for all the town departments, including continued development of their asset tracking system that he started a couple of years ago, and that's basically going to be kind of a long-term capital planning tool that he uses for all facilities equipment. I guess with that, I think I lost my. Oh, there we go. Yeah, with that, I'll take any questions, and I can backtrack to any of them.
Any questions for Brian?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One, those expensive lockers on steroids, are they going to be transferable to the new building when it gets done?
Yeah,
That's a great question. I'll let Nick take that one.
yeah, that's one of the reasons that we went with those, because they're totally modular, so you can just pull them out and put them in any new spot that you want to. They're very user friendly in that way. So we were looking ahead when we did it for a potential new station, and these will be able to swap right over.
Good, excellent. Now, on the Jacobs Meadow, Brian, a couple of years ago, we talked about the I&I there coming through the pipes in the meadow. Is that still on the books to be done?
It is, yeah. So I was saving that for the water and sewer night, but part of the CZM grant is they're doing a wastewater infrastructure improvements, including elevating a lot of the equipment in the plant, but it also includes I&I treatment of the old clay sewers that go underneath the meadow. And they're going to have a design. The deliverable on both of these grants is the end of June, end of July. So we'll have a design for rehab of those, which will be kind of a trenchless technology in situ form, where they pour, they install a cure in place liner through the entire pipe, and it becomes a pipe within the pipe. It's a structural liner. So if you Google in situ form, there's 1,000 videos out there. But that's going to be hopefully funded in the next fiscal. Well, it'll be kind of at the end of FY25, and that should hopefully take care of a lot of that I&I that happens in the meadow, and in and around Margin Street, the harbor.
Yeah. How does that affect the volume, the flow volume, when you reline the?
That's a good question. So it's our plant is the design is for 450,000 gallons a day. The average daily demand or collection is about 300,000 gallons a day. When we have a major rain event like this, it can go upwards of 1 to 1.1 million gallons a day. So it's almost tripled.
But the lining of, that's good information too, Brian, thanks. But the lining of the pipe, you're reducing the internal diameter. How much does that affect the capacity of the pipe?
Yeah, it shouldn't affect it. So it's a gravity main. It's only full when it's getting surcharged, like when it's getting inundated with I&I, inflow and infiltration. So the issue is that the main that's in, like most systems, they start at the most critical area. And back in the 70s, they put the sewer plant near the harbor, and they sewer just in that area. So the oldest part of the system is the part that goes right into the plant, and it's all vitrified clay, you know, red clay pipes with joints. So they were cameraed, and you can see a significant amount of leakage in a lot of those joints. So when you put the pipe in the pipe, there are no joints. It's just a continuous kind of monolithic, or not monolithic, but it's one contiguous pipe. Then a robot goes in and kind of drills out the laterals.
Thank you.
Brian, maybe this is an overlap between the sidewalk committee and roads and sidewalks and facilities and school facilities, but I think there's been talk about that little piece of sidewalk that's missing at the high school down to Pond Street. And as Pond Street is gonna get repaved, is there a solution in there? I think the reason originally that the sidewalk wasn't finished is because it approaches the wetlands. But it does force kids to walk and encourage people to walk into the drive lane as they're coming up from Pond. And obviously that being the school is a heavily trafficked area. Has a solution there been sorted out?
No, so I mean, it's not part, I can tell you, it's not part of the Pond Street paving. The Pond Street paving is really just curb to curb paving, and also the sidewalk that's existing, including, it's really going to be on the east side, the west side of that driveway towards 3A. But that solution is part of another quote that I got from our vendor, and the schools have that one, and it's part of the kind of the comprehensive paving of the entire campus, including the sidewalk work there. And you're right, it does include permitting for the wetland that's right in that area. And permitting has been tricky. We put a sidewalk in on Sawyer Street to connect, Fair Oaks towards the Stop and Shop, and ultimately the goal is that's going to connect us to a sidewalk system that goes down 3A to the T station. But at any rate, the permitting through that of that sidewalk required permeable pavement, and it's an astronomical price. So I think if we do go through permitting, I have an RDA already out there for permitting that sidewalk. But if we go through the permitting process, I think I'd recommend to the Concom something other than permeable pavement, probably like a BMP or rain garden or something. So it's less money.
Yeah, it'd just be great if we could break that, maybe that small piece, break it away from the whole rest of the campus paving, because that seems like a much larger ask than that small little section. That's probably about 50 feet or something like that.
Yeah, it's a short section. It's just again, I think the reason it wasn't done is because of the permitting, and the permitting is probably the tricky part of it, not really the construction of it. It looks, you can see it and you can see where it's supposed to go, right?
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Sure.
Fran, I think I saw your hand up.
Oh, no, I already had my question.
Okay.
Okay. There we go.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I may, it's Diane. Brian, just a question. I think it's roads, but what's the status of the Border Street Bridge? I remember a couple years ago it being one of the critical needs in town, and it just kind of certainly fell off my radar. I'm sure it's not fallen off of yours.
Oh, thank you for asking. It's one of we capital budget funded it 3 years ago, and we've completed the work under budget. So and it was through several phases. We used we put out a shotcrete services contract, and that contractor has done seawall work for us, and he's done the work on the substructure of that archway. But it was basically involved chipping out bad concrete, wire tying in new steel where there was corroded steel, tying in anode bags, and then shotcrete. It's basically a dry concrete where water is applied at the nozzle and it just sticks. It's like paste. And then they smooth it out. So if you go and look underneath that bridge, I don't know if you've looked at it before, but it's a nice smooth surface without any kind of the spalls that were there 2 or 3 years ago. I know Fran.
They did a beautiful job for a badly spalled piece of artwork. They did a nice job restoring it.
Yeah, so that's done. Happy to report. But you know, again, 10 to 15 years down the road, may need to do some more stuff.
They always come back. Thank you.
Any more questions for Brian? No? Okay. So thank you very much
Thank you all.
to
Good
both
evening.
of you.
Brian, can you stay before you, Bill's gonna present the accelerated request for the new parking meters and if and your piece is kind of associated with that, your license
Sure.
plate reader at the RTF. I don't know if we need to buy them together. Do we need to buy them together or would that be something we could separate?
It's part of the overall bid. I'm not exactly sure. I think it would be problematic to try to separate things at this point.
Okay. All right, well, I will let you present and then we can go from there. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead. I just wanted to keep Brian from jumping off. the
No,
call.
that's okay. And actually that item was added after I had done the rest of the agenda. So it's kind of out of order. So my apologies to Chief Quigley. We should have included that when your police and fire budget was covered.
Oh, no problem at all. No issue. Do you want me to jump right into it?
Sure.
So as folks may know, we through capital budget this year we've requested $71,093 to change vendors for electronic parking enforcement. Currently, we contract with a company called Passport. They're out of New York, and they handle the hardware and the ticket writers in the back end of collecting fines for the town of Cohasset. By way of background, we've had this company for about, at least 10 years, probably 15 years, and they've changed hands and they've changed hands twice. This current the current model that they're working under, we're unable to get a hold of them. We've lost contact with Passport, the company. They're not servicing, they're not following the terms and conditions of the contract that the town has with them. And we issue about $80,000 in parking fines each year. Some people pay them, some people don't. If you don't pay them, the tickets flag to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and it prevents you from renewing your driver's, the registered owner of the vehicle that got the tag prevents that person from renewing their driver's license or registration. We call that, it's the fine is flagged to the registry. For some reason, this company has stopped doing that. So there's a bunch of people who owe us money, and Passport is saying that they've reported these people to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and they have not. I have Officer Kimball is here with me, and he's done extensive research on this. So we've tried to rectify it. We've sent letters, we've sent emails, I've called, and we just get no response back, zero response. Tracy Connors has done the same thing. So we planned on severing our relationship with Passport this July 1st. They've recently, in the last 6 weeks, they've totally gone silent on us, and we cannot get a hold of them. That's causing great concern for our parking program for this summer. So we're asking that we accelerate. Basically, we're looking for a loan from the reserve fund to cover the almost $72,000 request we have through capital to do this now, because to change companies, this new company that we're looking at is local, and they service a bunch of towns, including Somerville, Manchester by the Sea, Salem. We've checked their references. They're on the state bid list. It's a good company, and they're offering us a very robust product and solution, including some enhancements to the way we do things now. One of those enhancements is adding an automatic plate reader to the RTF. So as you know, people who live in town, they have a beach sticker or a dump sticker, all facility sticker. And we would take that list of people who have stickers each year and whitelist it to the system. And people would, take care of business at the RTF, get rid of their trash and so forth. And if a vehicle goes through that's not on that white list, it would send a message to Brian as to each day it would run a list of, scofflaws, if you will, people who came through the gate to dump stuff that didn't have a sticker. And Brian could research it. I don't know what their process is in chasing these people down. But he could research it in any way he deems fit. But there's right now, the way he addresses that issue is with a person. I think you detail an RTF worker to the front gate on busy days.
Yeah, this is going to cut out a much bigger manual process. So the RTF guys have to notice you don't have a sticker. We can't always like I said, we're down a man up there, and we can't always man the booth. So they'll notify the person. Sometimes they say, screw you, I pay my taxes, and they'll go ahead. So they don't engage conflict. They just write down the license plate, and then the next day, Ashley or someone will email the chief, and then the chief needs to look up the plate and then identify who that person is and give us the address. And then we administratively send a letter to them saying, you violated, and we have a progressive kind of discipline in our regulations. At any rate, that process will go away if we can have just a plate reader that says, they shouldn't be here, and maybe draft a form letter if we can somehow program that.
Yeah, so basically the request is we're asking for a loan from the reserve fund to fund this immediately. And there's about a 60-day startup cost to the whole parking enforcement program. So we need to be up and running by June. Before that's our busy season for parking tickets. Again, we issue about $80,000 in parking tickets per year. With this company, the situation they've put us in, we're not sure that they're even going to be around this summer, so we have to do something. We don't want to end up with no mechanism for enforcement over the summer.
So basically, you'll have double coverage for a short period of time.
Well, we would shut the other company off because the payments would have to go to this new company.
Okay, and does that
deal with the old company?
Does that cause a contract problem with the first company?
They've clearly violated the terms and conditions of their contract.
All right.
Council will have to get involved and terminate that contract. They have quite a paper trail on what they have.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Yep.
Fran?
This is a peripheral question, Chief. In my travels up and down the highways of Massachusetts, I noticed lots and lots and lots of cars with basically opaque license plate covers. It's almost impossible to read what plate, even if they have one. How are you going to do that?
Against the law.
Gina's 100% right. It is against the law to restrict your license plate.
Well, that's what I thought, but
online.
I'm just surprised. I just see them back and forth up and down Route 3. I see them every day, and I'm wondering, how are these people escaping?
Yeah, they're actually, you have to be right behind the car to see it. That's on purpose, and it's a way to evade tolls.
That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Yeah, they sell them on Amazon.
Thanks for the tip.
Save yourself a ton of money.
I won't be getting one.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, it was one question. I guess it relates to the RTF and some of these, necessarily in theory, it's a good idea to, enforce these rules, but maybe some of the unintended consequences that they come up with it. Somebody's car is in the shop and they've got rental car and now all of a sudden getting rid of their trash when they have a rental car because their car is in the shop just becomes a more of a major concern. Maybe going to the beach isn't as significant. Maybe they have another vehicle. I don't know. It seems like one of those things, just an automatic swipe of it. And I don't know how that gets handled, if they'd have to go into town hall and get some sort of special temporary permit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if that happened, in all these violations we mail out, it's, you know, if there's any issue with them, that the folks either call up or come into town hall and explain what the situation is.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So, and just to explain the progressive, I think the first time you have is a one-time warning, second one is
It's 100.
a $50 fine, then it's a $100 fine, third one, and then there's the, you know, suspension of privileges type thing. So I think what we've noticed is a few like frequent flyers, and I think that the chief and actually Officer Kimball has caught a couple of them up there. We've kind of culled the herd on people who are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I guess my concern there is if the letters are going to the registered owner and the registered owner is like an enterprise rent-a-car, the person that's driving it has no idea. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, they're getting a bill from Enterprise for, you know, because they were going through for 3 months or something. It just, some of these details would seem to be a little bit clunky, if you will, but could also in reality pose a problem. So just coming up with a way to mitigate that, I guess.
Mark, we run these. We get this all the time at the beach. There's, you know, it's the nanny has the car, or the stickers on the other car. We're small enough where we handle these things, you know, per instance. And when we run the plate, if it does come back to a Hertz or an Avis, or we know what's going on. We're not exactly lowering the boom on people. It's more of a deterrent. And people are generally good if they call. You know, Tracy's excellent, or if they even just approach the officer. Most people know we're at the beach. It's more the heavy hitters at the RTF. Like we have people going in there after hours and opening gates and going in.
Oh my gosh.
We have someone going to court for that. We stop the person. He happens to be a Hull resident, but he's getting
Oh my God.
you know, construction
People have
debris.
some nerve.
Yeah, I mean construction debris. You know, at
Ridiculous.
10 or 11 o'clock at night, and you know they do it because they can. So
That's unbelievable.
if this is a successful program, it'd be clearly marked that, you know, it's you know, the plates are copied down. It just, that alone should act as a deterrent. But you know, we can't even I don't think Brian can even put a price on how much stuff is going in there that isn't, you know, calculated.
Yeah, it's definitely a help.
I was just gonna say, having, you know, listened to so many citizen resident complaints about the unfairness and having the DPW or RTF staff have to, you know, confront people that don't have stickers and everything. I think this is as good a solution as we can find. So thanks.
I think a plate reader is a great idea.
Me too. Mhm.
Situate is actually using them now, and a lot of our beach communities are, and if it works at the RTF, it may be something we look at, you know, for overtime parking in the village and things like that. It'll really free up an officer and free them up to do other things, as opposed to walk through and, you know, we used to say chalk the tires, but you can't do that anymore. When you drive through, it actually records the plate and the time, and you drive through again in an hour or 2 hours. It'll flag which ones have been there over time.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Because we are going to need to take action on this. So Chris, we need to take a vote on this, correct?
If you want to release the money, yes.
Okay,
And just in full disclosure, some of the questions that Mark has brought up have been raised at Capitol. So and they're going to come up, I'm sure, at town meeting floor too, if someone brings them up, if they actually get that deep. So that said, we've been talking about this option for a long time. And quite frankly, putting the guys in the middle of enforcement up there is problematic. And I understand Mark's concerns. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. We're a small enough town. If somebody says, hey, my car's in the shop, you know, I mean, they should just say that, right? Say that to the people at the site, just disclose it. If they disclosed it then we'll have no problem, right? And then they can just validate that they actually have a sticker, right? So the problem is that You know, there were people like, I'm getting run over on the man. It's like, well, no, you're not. Actually, you're just causing more grief and trouble. So this keeps this keeps the poor RTF folks out of that kind of confrontation and just allows us to.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
my next comment is, you know, you don't want anybody getting out of their car and giving somebody at the RTF a hard time because they won't let them in. But I mean, all the RTF employee has to do is say, you know, show me your license. But that's not practical when you've got a line of cars waiting to get in. And that's what Saturday and Sunday are there, so.
Yeah, they've all been trained not to engage in any conflict, just instruct them what the rules are, and if they don't want to comply, the license plate. But then that creates the whole chain of manual events that this camera will prevent.
Yep.
So the request is, what's the number, Bill? I don't have it right in front of me. The bottom line, $71,000 or something like that. Man,
It's 72,000.
It's 71,093. I was able to get that one document. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve reserve fund transfer request for parking enforcement in the amount of $71,093?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Diane.
I'm just writing these down so I don't forget.
And what does that buy us? I missed something.
We're changing the vendor, Fran. It
So this is an upfront cost to the vendor, to the new vendor?
because we have to pay them from now until when the new time frame would start.
The reason this is being accelerated, Fran, is this is the capital plan. The problem is that, as Bill
Right.
said, as Chief Quigley said, the current vendor has kind of fallen down completely. And if we wait till June, we expect town meeting will approve this. At that point, with the capital money, it'll come back into the reserve fund.
No,
That's it.
I got that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is being accelerated because if it doesn't happen now, they'd have to go back at best to paper tickets, which I think we'd even have to have them printed. I don't even know if we have any paper tickets left at any kind of volume. So it would mean a summer without much beach enforcement or downtown enforcement, which I think would be problematic at this
So
point.
this $71,000 is going to buy us the equipment, the ticket writers and the whatever it is that it takes to keep this thing going. What is the annual cost for this operation?
It is the annual cost. Well, they take a cut of the just make sure. Yeah, they take a cut of the fines issued, but the annual cost comes out to about $28,660 yearly. And we pay a similar amount to the current vendor. So the
Who's
hardware,
not doing their job?
yeah, exactly. The hardware that's involved with this new vendor is $42,433, and that includes the software to be installed. It'll interface with the mobile computers inside all the cruisers and printers.
So we're paying them $220,000 a year plus a cut of the tickets. Is that it? Tickets?
28,000.
Oh, 28. Okay. All right.
28,660.
All right. I'm clear. No problems. I got you.
Be a lot of beach tickets to offset $250,000.
Fran, Chris circulated a one-page flyer this afternoon late, and it has all of the costs included in it. Or actually, Chief Quigley submitted this one.
I didn't see it. I was in Boston.
I can send it
Yeah.
over to Fran so you can review it.
Okay. All right, so are we ready to take a vote? Has to be by roll call, so I'm gonna call your names. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Rob Hillman,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
and Gina Stino, I'm an aye. Okay, so it's unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, do we have any draft warrant items to discuss, Chris?
I just give you an update. So tonight, as we meet tonight, the planning board is having its public hearing on zoning articles. I'm hoping that we'll get some idea out of after tonight as to what's going forward and what's not. The one thing for sure is the MBTA zoning. The MBTA zoning overlay district is going to go onto the warrant. That's going forward. There are a number of others that are in conversation. And again, we'll have a better vibe after tonight as to what the planning board felt and how the public may have felt. The only other one that's a little more robust than now we actually have language, but I'm still waiting for council to vet it, so I should have it all to you shortly. It's a noise ordinance. It's a construction hour limits that actually morphed into a bigger noise ordinance. It's basically Hingham's. So if you went to Hingham's code and you looked at Hingham's noise ordinance, because Cohasset doesn't have one, believe it or not. We don't actually have restrictions on the
I am
hours of
shocked.
operation. Yeah,
I am shocked.
well, I mean, it's not entirely true. You can actually, I think, operate equipment and make noise till 11 o'clock at night. So, which and anytime, any day. So, this would be modeled on Hingham's. It's basically Hingham's with some adaptions. And
Okay.
council's looking at it now. Mike Barclay actually could probably talk to all of you about it because if I recall it in the prior meetings, he mentioned that he had led this drive in Hingham when it was adopted a number of years back. So, so that's the only thing that's a little different, and you'll have the language on that fairly shortly. But the select board did like that better. We gave them two options: a short one that was just like on just really construction hours, and they wanted to go bigger. So so that's been adopted. That's being reviewed, I should say. So other than that, all the others are the financial ones are still, you're starting the budget reviews. I expect to have the one-time costs in the stabilization fund numbers and all that very shortly, hopefully for you as early as next week. And we are in the final stages of sort of trying to work with the schools. I am going to make a request to use some free cash to plug the special education hole they have, which is rather substantial, which will help buy them a little time. And I have tweaked the budget a little bit more to allow a little more revenue to flow through to both operating sides because of the strain. We have so I think everyone knows this is we're going to the last year of a 3-year contract. And we're at a 3% COLA, which isn't really particularly extreme. That said, it's bigger than 2%, and it accelerates. So normally when you have a 2.5% tax base increase, 3% is more than that. So it's strained. The budget's a little bit more than I had hoped. We have squeezed them back. But we had to put a little bit more into it to make the schools whole, to make the town whole, and then still be tight. So I will give you an update on that next week if you'd like.
Great. We do have a meeting scheduled for the 10th, which is next Wednesday. So I'll talk with you before that. I was kind of out of commission for
Yeah, I know.
10
I'm
days.
sorry. Yeah, I guess
So-
you're feeling better. You look better.
I am feeling better. The cough is still pretty bad, but at least it doesn't hurt. So that's good. But I literally sat on the couch for 8 days and did nothing. I never do that. So anyway, enough about me.
My son's in college.
Yeah, and they're not sick, right? Don't make me cough. Okay, so are there any other town manager updates, Chris?
No, I just mentioned the 135 King.
Yep.
And I should probably start sharing the same one pager that I share with the select board. It's just kind of a quick update. It is on the town's website if you want to go looking at the packet.
Okay,
Just quickly on the recreation projects are moving. Michelle's meeting with Activitas, that were our project designer, this week. There was a little visioning project done by the kids ages like 3 to 7. If you actually come into town hall, they line the stairwell going from the first floor to the second floor up to my office, the treasurer collector's office. And some of them were shown last night, and they're on the town's website if you want to see. They were all given like a sheet, and some people, they could use like cutout pictures, or they actually drew. And some of them are pretty cool. One kid actually drew a big giant TV. So his idea of recreation is not recreation, it's video games apparently, which is okay. Right? We're not going to be putting a video game at Beechwood, but so it was kind of fun. So I thought it was just fun to share that. Michelle Leary came up with that idea, and the library and the rec program ran with it. So it was actually a lot of fun. So, but that's coming along nicely. So, and we're also, since we bought the One Pleasant, I'm sorry, I apologize, 135 King, since that's been, so we're actually preparing the whole bond issue for that, plus the recreation project. So that's actually in motion as well, though. There's nothing for you to approve. I'm just letting you know that's actually in the process. That's it.
Great, great. I actually found these one-page things, the summaries, very informative. I think it was good to have them. So if
I'll
you do
share them.
something,
Yeah.
if you do something similar for the Board of Selectmen, that would be great, because it would fill us in for our next meeting, which is the next night. So thank you for offering to share that with us. Do we have any updates from liaisons? Probably not. I know that Mark, you and Mike met with public safety, police and fire. But
Yes.
that information was covered tonight, so we're all good on that.
Yep, and was able to attend part of the school facilities committee. And I still have to catch up with him, but not much to report there.
Okay. All right.
I
Yeah.
DPW
attended.
made the report that I was gonna give you tonight, so he dotted all the i's and crossed all the t's there. I haven't been to the affordable energy for the last 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm not quite sure where they are, but they are, they've got a great survey out for the town on energy usage, which some of you may have seen already. It's kind of an interesting project that they're engaged in now.
Oh. I haven't seen it, but that sounds great.
Jean, I have a quick update, but Rob Hillman also does, and he raised his hand before me, so.
Okay.
Well,
I can't see everything, so.
I know, that's why I
I'm
was
above.
saying that, yeah.
Thank you. I can see your hand, but I can't see Rob's. So go
I've
ahead,
the-
Diane.
I have the benefit of being succinct. Chris covered everything I had to say. Just to, in terms of scheduling, the planning board is having its hearing on the zoning amendments as we speak, which I'll watch it because that's what I've been condemned to do.
Oh,
And,
stop. You love that. You
I
know it.
do, I do. But I'll talk to Eugene about getting that group on for a meeting with us to review,
Great.
what it is that they plan to put on the warrant. And I want to make sure that we have enough time ahead of time to absorb it. And I'm also going to ask for somebody to give us an executive summary of what it is we need to be looking at. The MBTA overlay, I saw some comments that evidently, our version of it, I think it got Attorney General approval, and it seems as if it got even some praise as something that could be a model for how a smaller town can write a pretty straightforward piece of legislation. So that'll be, I hesitate to say fun, but I think it'll be a useful exercise for us to review. And I think that may generate some town meeting comment. So we should be prepared to give it a thoughtful review and comment, recommendation, or whatever it is the board decides to do. So committee decides to do. So I'll keep you posted.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Diane?
Thanks for that, Rob, on MBTA multifamily, because that's something I'm interested in having a deep presentation on if possible, so that we can understand it and help, articulate or help promote whatever the position is to the town meeting. Water and sewer, I just checked in, Chris, you can affirm that I think they're close to having their budgets ready. And Brian talked earlier about the design study for the sewer plant. And is that something that's coming in front of town meeting as an article, or is it already funded? is it on the capital? I got the impression that they were gonna be asking for money at this town meeting.
Yeah, there's, you're talking about the climate resiliency stuff, that they're still working on that.
Something
so
about the plant evaluation?
So the climate resiliency money we won is preparing options now for raising the roads and all around the harbor, and also how to secure the sewer plant. So we're not ready to actually buy a solution yet. I think there'll be some public conversations this spring. At least that's what I think is happening.
Okay.
So and then we'll, when there's some consensus around the options, we'll seek another set of grants.
Okay. And then just in terms of like scheduling for next week's meeting, I know tomorrow CPC is meeting to review a whole bunch of things. I'm gonna attend the meeting. I don't know whether or not they're gonna be ready to be on our agenda on the 10th, but I'll keep Jean posted and Chris posted.
Great.
I believe they're actually
And-
moving very fast, so they may actually be done tomorrow. It's good.
Okay, and then we have a week off in between and then for school vacation week, and then we have another meeting on the 24th. So I'm gonna try and put the upcoming meetings on the agenda so everybody knows when the meetings are ahead of time, instead of waiting for an agenda to be posted. It makes sense to me, so. Anyway, so next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for March 20th, 2024. Does anybody have any comments or corrections? I guess not. Okay, so could someone make a motion to approve those minutes of March 20th, 2024?
I'll move them.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins?
I guess I can say, yeah, even though I wasn't there, I did look at
Yeah,
it.
you, well, if you read them and you liked them, you can approve them.
They were wonderful.
Rob Hillman,
Rob Hillman, aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
I'll abstain. I was attending a youth chorus concert that night.
that's right. You were lucky. Meg Wheeler
Meg Wheeler, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, so I think that's it for now. Again, upcoming meeting dates are appearing on the agendas. So the next meeting is next week, and then we have a week off. And then we have meetings on the 24th and May 1st. So we should have some things to discuss and maybe make some recommendations. So on that note, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so Mark and Fran,
Yeah.
all in favor? Mark Cameron,
Aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Rob Hillman,
Aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
and Gina Stino. I am also an aye. So thank you very much. It is 8:39. We're ahead of schedule again, but I can't promise that this will happen.